Hi there! Recently, Colourpop came out with an It's a Small World May collection, and very tantalizingly, in my opinion, they introduced it as their first Fantasyland-inspired collection. Now, that to me begs the question of what other Fantasyland collections they are intending to come out with. I do love the Magic Kingdom. I will admit that. Now, I'm not like a crazy Disney adult. I don't want to get married at Disney World or anything like that. You know, all the power to you if you do want to do that. But yeah, not really my scene. However, I do really like Disney. I have a lot of really fond memories there from when I was a kid, and I would be really interested to see additional Disney World inspired collabs with Colourpop. And if you've been on this channel before, you know that sometimes when I start thinking about collections that I might want to happen, the little hamsters start running up there and they come up with palettes. So that's what we're looking at today. I have come up with 4 12-pan palettes that are inspired by different attractions at the Magic Kingdom. So let me scooch a little to one side so I can put up my pictures of palettes, and we will get started. You know what? Let's do this as a little bit of a guessing game. I will put up the palette first, and I'll give you a few seconds to guess what attraction it's inspired by. So, first up, it's Cinderella's castle. With this palette, I wanted to keep to blues and neutrals. Now, there really isn't all that much blue on the Cinderella castle, really only the very tops of the spires are blue. However, I feel like it's a very notable piece of the castle. It doesn't feel complete without quite a bit of blue, and I thought that the transition from blue to gray is definitely a color that I'm really drawn to, and I thought it fit really well. So there's a little bit more blue than is probably really accurate to the attraction, but I think it still works. And because it is Cinderella, I thought that amping up the amount of blue really reinforced the inspiration. Overall, I think this is a super wearable looking palette. Actually, as I was looking at this again this morning, I put these palettes together probably about 2 weeks ago at this point. I was thinking that this looks really like it could fit in with some of their recent collections. They have a sort of ballet pink and gray palette that they just recently put out, a 9-pan, and I feel like this is sort of in a similar vein. Now, obviously, this isn't pink, but I think that it has that same feeling of being really delicate and like a neutral, approachable, even for people who aren't super comfortable with color, take on color. I really like this palette. I think this is very, very pretty. I mean, obviously I like it. I made it. But I think that these pearly whites and golds and grays are the kind of color that I could see myself using all the time, and I think the pops of blue just make it a little more fun. Palette number 2 is, I think, probably the hardest one to guess, but I'll give you a few seconds. Yes, I was singing the Jeopardy song in my head. It's inspired by Dumbo the Flying Elephant. Now, this is that same ride that I feel like every amusement park has, but for some reason at Disney World it is themed as Dumbo, and it makes it so much more visually appealing. Every 3-year-old wants to be on this ride. Even, you know, me, age 28, who really doesn't like heights and has no interest in the going up and moving in a circle rides, it's still really visually interesting. So I decided for this palette to go with the colors of the hats that the different Dumbos are wearing, and they are these quite light but bright shades that I put into this palette. I envisioned this as more of a companion palette. I think that for a lot of makeup users, there's probably not many complete looks that you could get out of this palette, Though I will say that for me, I could see myself using one of these mattes like on the outer half of my lid and then taking a corresponding shimmer and using that on the inner half of my lid. I really like that approach to a monochromatic look, and because you are using two shades that are pretty similar in color, there's no worry about things getting muddy. But anyway, this isn't about how I like to do my makeup in the morning. I just think this is a really pretty set of colors. To me, this is just fun. I think this is something a little bit different. I don't feel like this looks like every other palette that Colourpop releases. Even when they go with these more kiddie franchises or nostalgia franchises, they don't tend to go quite this colorful and quite this rainbow in their palettes. They usually try to give something that most people would get complete looks out of, and I feel like this is just something a little bit different. And I think it suits Dumbo really well. Next we have one of my absolute favorite rides at Disney World. And this is Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, for this particular palette, I was especially thinking of the very last scene that you see in Pirates of the Caribbean, which has been rethemed in the last, it's actually been quite a while now. It's probably been like 15 years since they redid this. But the last scene that you see in the ride now is Captain Jack Sparrow, and he's just in this room that is full of treasure. So I decided to keep to the color scheme of sort of the clothes that Jack wears, which are largely these earth tones, especially browns, and then lots of red and lots of gold to keep with the treasure. And those sorts of colors, those reds and golds and browns, really do appear throughout the ride. I'm thinking of the Village That's on Fire, for example. I mean, a lot of those same tones are popping up, little less gold. It's more of a flame yellow rather than a super shiny, like gold jewelry, gold coins kind of yellow. But it's still in that same kind of color family. And I think this looks very luxe. I think that for a lot of people, this would be a very, very fall palette, but also kind of an all year round palette. These very warm golden tones seem to be a real go-to for a lot of people. They aren't really mine, but if you theme it around Pirates of the Caribbean, I would still probably buy it. Let's be real. And then last up, we have what I think is probably the easiest palette of the bunch to guess. So, not going to give you too much time on this one, but it's the Haunted Mansion. Now, for this palette, I knew I had to keep things pretty dark. I wanted to have these like electric pops of blue and green. In the current iteration of the Haunted Mansion, a lot of the ghosts are this kind of like electric blue, and Madame Leota, who is the head that sits in the crystal ball, is like this really bright green. And I just thought that in contrast to the sort of grayed out purples and like deep midnight blues that dominate the rest of this palette, these made really eye-catching little pops and really sold the theme of the Haunted Mansion. You'll notice that there's also a very deep red. I was thinking sort of the bride's heart, which you can still see beating within her chest. Also, I just thought it really fit the color scheme nicely. I thought it added something a little bit different. I mean, the rest of the palette was pretty grays, blues, all very gray toned. Lots of pretty smoky looks in there, but it just needed a little bit of something more, and I think the red was the right way to go. Also, I love the Haunted Mansion, and this very, very much reminds me of it. I think that even if you just showed me this palette without any kind of Disney theming, I would kind of think of it as my Haunted Mansion palette. And I love that. I think I did a good job on this one. So, what do you think of these palettes, and what do you think of Colourpop's little hint that they might be dropping some more Disney inspired, or I guess Disneyland or Disney World inspired collections? I'm really interested to see what they come out with, and I'd love to know if there are any specific rides or attractions that you would be really interested in seeing them bring out. Okay, I'm already stumbling over my words, and this is only the second video I'm filming today, so I need to do something different now. Gotta wrap this one up. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Please consider liking and subscribing if you did, and I hope we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys!